So we've been talking a lot about Dr. Helmut Marko here on the channel, more than we usually do. And we usually talk about him a lot because he's always coming out with some interesting quotes in the media. Now, this has nothing to do with anything he said after the Australian Grand Prix. We've already covered what he said about Isaac Hadjar. But if you've missed the news, there is a new directive from the FIA when it comes to the Flexiwing controversy. Now, there was going to be a change that came in for the Spanish Grand Prix, but apparently after monitoring the flexibility of these wings at high speed using some onboard cameras during the Australian Grand Prix, they instead decided to clamp down on this for the Chinese Grand Prix this weekend coming up. Now, some people do believe that McLaren, a lot of their pace, a lot of their advantage does come from this, but some people don't think that's the case. It's mainly to do with tyres. However, this could well hurt some teams for sure, and probably benefit Red Bull, just going off of the kind of gossip really in the paddock. But apparently Marko saw this coming. Apparently he knew this was coming. I doubt that, but they were definitely arguing for it were Red Bull. They were considering making a protest, an official one at that as well. So let's have a look what's been said here, guys. Full article covering this one on the F1Chronicle.com as always. A leading Dutch journalist thinks he knows why Dr. Helmut Marko left Australia with a smile on his face. Describing Max and father Jos as pessimists and calling himself an optimist, the Red Bull advisor said he thought the team could close a quite substantial pace gap to early championship leaders McLaren within 5 races. Journalist Eric van Haren suspects that Marko might even have been predicting a faster turnaround than that. On Sunday, insiders were already reporting that the FIA would be checking rear wings more strictly from now on, he wrote in De Telegraph. In Melbourne, the sport's governing body installed a Ultra HD camera on the cars in practice to monitor rear wing flexibility, the kind that pundits dubbed a mini DRS on the McLaren last year that the FIA made illegal over the winter. Having analysed footage from the rear wing deformations combined to the static deflections measured inside the FIA garage in Melbourne, the FIA has concluded that sufficient grounds exist for a tougher test to be introduced from the forthcoming Chinese Grand Prix on the upper rear wing, the FIA has now confirmed. After the pre-season test in Bahrain, Red Bull technical director Pierre Vaca said, "I think Ferrari and McLaren are still using the mini. It's still going on." Mercedes boss Toto Wolff declared in Melbourne that he doesn't think rear wing flexibility is the reason for McLaren's sudden advantage. However, Red Bull team boss Christian Horner said after the checkered flag, what's quite strange is that they, McLaren, got great tyre warm-up, but also very little degradation. Normally one comes at the expense of the other. You can have one, but you can't have both. Red Bull will be hoping that the likely loss of the DRS effect in Shanghai this weekend will erode some of McLaren's advantage. Van Haren suspects that the team knew the FIA's clampdown for China was coming. It is one of the reasons that he expressed himself rather optimistically about the closing the gap with McLaren, which is clearly too fast at the moment, he said. Within Red Bull, they think that there is new guidelines from the FIA, and this will certainly affect the competition. Amidst this optimism, however, even Marko has doubts about whether the FIA can really curb ingenious F1 engineers who find ways to swerve around the rules. The team simply have much more manpower than the FIA, he told Service TV. So in my view, what cannot be verified cannot be permitted. That's the argument. I'm sure he would be saying that, innocent until proven guilty on these kind of things, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I think the main advantage, going off what people are saying after Australia, is the tyres, and I did cover this in a separate video before, but I really do think that McLaren will still have the advantage in China. I don't think that's going to change. Maybe it will hand a little bit of the advantage back to the rest of the field, but from memory, it was not just McLaren that was doing this last year. Ferrari were doing it as well, and I think Red Bull and Mercedes were very much trying to copy them, but didn't quite get to the point where that happened, and eventually did get banned. Now, the mini DRS is gone, but there were some other advantages apparently with the rear wing opening on some onboards a little bit anyway to help that. So there's all sorts of clever ways to get around it. The FIA has tried to close that loophole. Let's see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see if there's a big shake-up in the order in China, but to be honest, I'll be surprised if there is. But guys, let us know what you think in the comments below as always. If you want to see much more content like this on the world of Formula 1, do keep tuned to the F1Chronicle.com. Hope you have a fantastic day. Have a great weekend. Let's have a great weekend of racing action in China as well. Why not at the end of the day? I'll probably put a video at the end of this video saying some, just along the lines of maybe the Helmut Marko, Isaac Hadjar controversy, if you've not seen that, because that's I had a few words about that the other day. It's fair to say. So yeah, see you soon, guys. Have a great day.